All right, we'd like to welcome everybody to Planning Commission meeting tonight. It is Thursday, July 27th, and we are going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Turn the time over to Theron Smith.
Please rise. Reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's have roll call. Start over here with Commissioner Steele, please.
Sandra Steele.
Troy Cunningham.
David Funk.
Kirk Wilkins.
Ken Kilgore.
Brian Chapman.
Hayden Williamson.
We have a quorum, and city staff, if you wouldn't mind doing roll call.
David Stroud.
Era Knighton.
Kevin Thurman.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, guys.
Gordon Miner's also here, and Nicolette Pike.
Okay. So this is a public meeting. If there are any ideas or concerns or thoughts that you have that are not in the agenda, we've set aside some time for you to come forward and express those concerns and ideas. Open the public forum now. Okay, given that there isn't any, we will close public input and we will move on to item number 4. This is a public hearing. It's an administrative recommendation for a site plan and conditional use permit for Maverick at Ring Road, located approximately the southwest corner of Redwood Road and 2015 South. Russell Skuse is the applicant, and we'll turn the time over to Kara for a presentation.
Thank you. The applicant, on behalf of the owner, is requesting site plan and conditional use permit of a 5,500 square foot convenience store / fast food combination located on the southwest corner of 2015 South and Redwood Road.
Kara, is your mic on?
It's on.
I think
Sorry.
you're just a little quiet. Okay.
Maybe it needs to be moved forward a little bit. Okay. All right, so here you have Redwood Road and Ring and the proposed site right on the corner. The Development Review Committee reviewed the site plan and elevations on March 20th, 2017. Their comments are summarized in the staff report. Here you can see the proposed site plan, Redwood Road, 2015 South, and then Ring Road up here. So north is this way. So here you have the proposed building with the pumps out in front, and then 2 larger pumps for RVs and such items. Here's the proposed landscaping plan. Again, Redwood to the bottom of the screen with north facing this way. Proposed elevations. These are the front elevations that will face onto Redwood Road. The rear elevations and the side elevations. There were several items that the DRC recommended as outlined in your staff report, and those have since been addressed in regards to the elevations. Proposed canopy, and then briefly I'll just run through their proposed signage really quick. Front, side, southern side, monument sign. Staff recommends the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, take public input, discuss the application, and vote to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council. Alternatives, here's the proposed conditions. Alternatives include continuance or a negative recommendation. This item was noticed as a public hearing in the Daily Herald, and notices were sent to all property owners within 300 feet. As of up to this point, no public input has been received, and the applicant is here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Kara. Is the applicant here? You can come and join us if you like. You can take a seat and make yourself comfortable. Would you tell us who you are, your name and address for the
Yes, Russell Skuse with Maverick.
So, did you want to add anything to the presentation?
We're here to answer any questions. We would like to thank staff honestly, it's always a pleasure to come to Saratoga Springs and work closely through the process. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. This is a public meeting, so we are going to, a public hearing, I mean. So we're going to open up public comment on item number 4 now for the Maverick at Ring Road. Anybody has any comments, thoughts? If you do, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Never been to one of these, so I don't know how this works.
We'll help you along.
Okay, Leslie Rollins, I'm at 2162 South Maverick Road, just south of the field where my backyard would be the field, and then you'd have Ring Road and this proposed site. So I have a couple concerns. One is lighting. Several years ago, we lived in West Jordan at the end of Airport Road number 2, and they put in it wasn't a Maverick, but it was similar. I think it was a Chevron or something. And the lighting all night long was a huge problem for the residents who lived close. So I want to know about the lighting at night. That's one of the things. And then I have concerns about just the traffic is going to be, and the kind of people that are going to hang around there, and why do we need another gas station, and why does it need to be down there? We already have so many along Redwood Road, so those are all my concerns. I'm pretty much against it, the way I feel right now.
Okay, and are you on Colt? Is that where you live?
No, I'm on Maverick Road,
You're on Maverick Road, okay.
right at the end of the cul-de-sac where my backyard goes right across from the field.
Gotcha. Okay, so what we do is, once you've given us your concerns, we'll dismiss you to sit down, and then we'll answer those after the public meeting is closed. All right, thank you. Any other comments? Thoughts? Okay, we will close public comment for item number 4 at this time, and we will address your questions. First of all, let's turn this over to the applicant. Maybe you can address some of the concerns with lighting and noise and the other things that she's talking
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the lighting goes, we have submitted a lighting plan that was a requirement for the city, which essentially we do not have any spillover for our lighting on our property. We meet all the requirements for the city, and additionally, if I can, this is one of the items that was that we do have to comply with, and I'll just read this right from the report. That for lighting and illumination, that 1 hour after closing or by 11 p.m., whichever is earlier, businesses must turn off at least 50% of building lighting and lighting fixtures in surface parking lots and on top decks of parking structures. However, those lighting fixtures turned off may be set to function utilizing a motion detector system. Lights may be turned back on 1/2 hour prior to the first employee shift. So by 11 p.m., our lighting will be dimmed by 50%. We certainly don't want to have anything be not within code. So
What time was that?
I believe it's 11 p.m.
All right, let's see, there was a concern about traffic, people hanging around there. Is this something that the city would like to tackle or response to?
I mean, obviously, any business is going to have traffic. Obviously, the customers, that's why the business is there to attract customers. Kind of a hard situation to try and tell one type of person, well, you can't, that you can't patronize that business. Obviously, I think Maverick has an inherent concern with that type of activity as well, and I'm sure they would do their best to, if people loitering around, that sort of thing, that they would have to tell them to vacate the premise.
Is this a business that will generate traffic or just capture traffic? Do you know?
Yeah, for the most part, I think everything down there is all residential. I think the people that are going to patronize that business are going to be the people that live down there.
Okay, so I guess we can turn this over to the Planning Commission for comment. Commissioner Steele.
First of all, I want to address that the fact that you really don't want it there. And because it is zoned RC, they're not asking for a zone change. So we cannot deny it. We can condition it to mitigate any impacts that it will have. But it is, the decision's already been made that with the zoning, that this type of business can come in. I'll ask this of staff. You say that this is adjacent to residentially zoned property. Where is the residentially zoned property? Is it the golf course?
For you. Hold on one second.
It's all around.
Well, it's not adjacent.
So everything around this area is R110, and then this is all R110 PUD. So everything in red is regional commercial. This is neighborhood commercial here, and everything else in yellow is residential.
Okay, on the general plan, the golf course is open space. I checked that. So, but honestly, there is some, I guess there is a little bit that's adjacent, but very little. The rendering for the rear elevation for the signs has or shows an external roof ladder, and the one for the signs that shows it. And I just want to make sure that it's understood that you cannot have that. Okay. And the other thing that bothers me is this elevation. You have a business that's going to be viewed from all four sides. That's pretty good for business. It would be nice if you had a little more architectural detail on the rear and on one of the side, the left side elevation. And I don't know how much we can ask, but it just seems like that is a little plain. It does have some articulation in it, but if we could put metal lattice on it or some kind of what I would call frou-frou. And that's it.
Wait a minute, we're having another vocabulary lesson. Would you please repeat the word that you used?
Frou-frou.
Frou-frou. Can you spell that? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So, anyway, those are my comments.
Before we go on, the roof ladder, did you want to add that as part of a condition, or just something we bring out? It is part of code, but.
So can I address that really quick? So the actual elevations do not show the roof ladder. The roof ladder has been internalized in their floor plans.
Okay.
It's just.
So a non-issue.
Yeah, there was just a slight, not the elevations themselves, but just.
Yeah, when our sign guy who put together the sign package for all the signage, he didn't get the update to the plan, and so when it came in, he still had that. And I think he actually has a note on that as far as that the roof ladder, but we are well aware we do not have the ladder.
The comments from the Planning Commission?
I have a couple.
Sure. Commissioner.
First, you mentioned spillover, and that's kind of a technical term. I believe I know what it means, but could you give a little bit better description so the residents might have a better understanding of what spillover, light spillover is?
Well, I don't know if I can get to it in the code quick enough here, but let's see.
General description's fine.
Well, I think we can't be beyond a certain lumens, and I believe it's like 0.1 on a technical term. They can't go beyond our boundary per code. So when we have our lighting engineers go through, they take a look at all the lighting and they make sure that there is nothing that goes beyond that boundary that exceeds 0.1 lumens.
And then,
with the LED lighting nowadays, it really makes a big difference from the past.
okay. I like your stores. I frequent one in Draper. What are your hours of operations going to be at this store? Is it
24
Oh,
hours.
24 hour, but you will reduce the lighting?
Yes.
Okay. My next question is about deliveries. This is a busy area, especially in the morning and in rush hours. When will you guys have deliveries of fuel and,
I don't think we have any set at this time.
okay?
That's something that I can look into as far as when we would have those deliveries.
All right. I know that we have added that as a condition on some other places because of Redwood Road and how busy it is. The other comment that was made is that we have a lot of convenience stores in town. We do in the north end of town. Kira, do you know how many we have south of, say, the high school?
South of what?
The high school.
Well, the high school will have a Maverick right there in the future.
But right now, there's nothing,
There
right?
will be one.
Yeah, there are
Right.
none from that far south.
I know that's a concern that's been expressed by the city council especially, is how few convenience stores there are in the south end of town. That's kind of a long drive for somebody to go from the south end all the way to Walmart or somewhere and then all the way back. So that's all the comments I have. Thanks.
On 19.09 off-street parking, the comment from the staff is that the applicant will comply if condition 5 is met. And I was wondering, do we have any sense of whether that condition 5 will be met?
So that is, oh, sorry. So what that is referring to is the cross-access easement. We just need a easement agreement. Maverick will need to obtain one for this easement across this piece. That's what the condition is for.
So that's being pursued? Is that correct?
Actually, the cross-access agreement, or the cross-access easements are actually on the minor subdivision currently.
Oh, okay, okay.
So they will be recorded when that's recorded.
Oh, okay. And 19.16, site and architectural stuff. So the parking areas can comply. What I didn't understand is I thought the applicant already had 50% parking on the side, so doesn't that already automatically comply? I'm not sure why it doesn't.
Also, let me explain. So the code requires majority of the parking to be to the sides or to the rear, but there is an exception within the code that will allow less than majority to be granted by the city council if 50% is located to the side. They have 50%.
Oh.
They're just requesting that variation.
I see. So if it was 51%, then there wouldn't be an issue. Is that what majority means in this case?
Yeah, I just said, yeah.
Okay, but because they have 50%, then that exception has to kick in. Okay. See, there's a thing about utility boxes that it can comply. I didn't understand what the issue is because I didn't really find anything in the code specifically about utility boxes. Wondering what.
Yeah, so that's in 1916. It just requires them to be screened. And at this point, I don't think we know where too many of them are going, so we just thought it best to keep it in as a condition.
I was going to ask where the utility boxes are because I couldn't find it on the map either, but that's it. Okay, so as a condition, you're going to have it on there. Okay. For sign illumination, it said that the applicant can comply if a code amendment is made. And I thought that was kind of drastic if we needed to make a code amendment for one applicant. I was wondering how many other applicants have either or are anticipated to need something like this?
So there's a couple of areas. So basically anything that comes here, this area, anything down here, and a couple of areas south in Fox Hollow, the majority of what we would see. Most of the other areas are in commercial pockets.
Okay, so as the city develops then, I wonder if when the code is amended to eliminate these restrictions, that goes against the small town feeling that we're supposed to keep as
So
voiced.
no code amendment at this time has been proposed, but the applicant would like to discuss the possibility of them bringing forward one to see if.
Okay, and the other thing is, okay, I guess it doesn't take care of everything, but when I stood where the Maverick is supposed to go and look towards the golf course, I could barely even see any of the rooftops of the houses because the golf course has a lot of berms right there on, right on that trail along Redwood Road. So I don't know if at least that will be an issue, but I could see like the comment that we received to the south as well as to the east.
Leslie
No, to the
Rollins.
west, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's still an issue then.
Code says really fast and then.
I've got a care if you need.
Got it?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it actually just slightly. Okay, so what it says is, no illuminated signage shall directly face adjacent residentially developed or zoned property, including property across a street. Directly facing means perpendicular and within 15 degrees of perpendicular in either direction.
Okay, so it's pretty clear. It doesn't say what the distance is, right? I mean, as long as it's adjacent. Okay. So when are we going to discuss this? It's something that maybe after all the comments are made from the planning commission?
Well, and that's something that if I can bring it up, what we would like to be able to do, because in discussions with staff and looking at the code, and I think you brought up, Commissioner Steele, a very good point when you said there's very little residential when you look at it. I prepared a map before that I can, if you'd like, but our store is within 1,000 feet of the closest residential property or home. When you look at the golf course, which is across the street, which is adjacent, and when you read the code and it says adjacent, but even though it's zone residential, it's a golf course. And so that was kind of our concern. We want to look at the code and try to, what we would like to be able to do is have maybe a joint work session with Planning Commission and City Council so we can dialogue about, and we're fine moving forward, but we would like that opportunity because when you look at this and you see it's a kind of a specific location and where this is and what's around, when it says can comply, the properties that are to the east and the west, even though it's vacant, there is the residential property there,
Right.
like this resident stated on Maverick. Because it is vacant, eventually it will go to commercial. So I think that when we look at these things, ours is going to be screened in the future, but today it's not. And as I said, it's 1,000 feet away, and the golf course, you won't be able to see some of those homes. And I think, as I stated before, with the way that we can address the lighting with LED and other things, there's got to be a way that we can, take a look at doing that and making it work for everybody, so that we don't have, there's a situation I think we discussed with our monument sign, because our monument sign isn't facing a residential, one side of the monument sign can be lit, where the other side is facing residential, it can't be lit. So that was kind of a concern that we had.
Well, so I forgot to thank you, by the way. I thought your preparation for your application preparation was really good.
Thank you.
One of the fewest can complies and non-compliance that we've seen so far. So I really appreciate that. However, since this is a administrative action on our part, can comply is fine, but if it requires a code amendment, that seems to be a pretty big hurdle for us to just approve it without that amendment. Otherwise, we're actually allowing a violation of the code. So I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do here.
So that's why the condition in the staff report says all signs shall comply with section 1918. So if they do come back later with a code amendment, that section in a whole will apply.
But if they don't amend the code, then they will be in violation if they light their signs.
Yeah, then they'll have to adjust them either way to match 1918.
Oh, so are you prepared for that? Oh, you are, okay.
Yeah.
You're okay with that? Okay. And that's all I have. Thanks.
I guess just one question. Is there, if you go back to the site plan, the property just directly west of this, is that scheduled to be, I mean, is something going to be going in there? It looks like a rather small piece that might be a little bit difficult to build on. And I just don't want it to be a big weed field.
Nothing is proposed there at the moment, but that current site does meet, this small piece currently does meet the 30,000 square feet.
Okay, so we could build on it in the future if someone wanted something.
Yeah, so that's being all adjusted with the minor subdivision.
Fair enough, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a couple. All right, so first of all, you were about to look up the code that the conditions that we've had for other gas stations, similar to this.
I just added that, so take a look and see if you like it. This is what was done with Murphy's Oil, just on the other side of the road. It just says, delivery trucks shall only access the site between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. to minimize potential for vehicular conflict and traffic congestion to comply with the standards in 1950.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I believe that that's similar to what was imposed on Pony Express. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, just to throw something out there about that, I don't know if the Planning Commission wants to discuss this or not, but you had some concerns here about possible conflicts with residential developments and during the nighttime hours with lights and so forth. Maybe something you want to consider is requiring deliveries at night might actually create more problems than you're trying to solve. It might be helpful to hear from the applicant how often they receive deliveries. And also you have to, before you impose that condition, you have to make sure that there's a tie-in to the code somewhere. Well, first of all, the first step is to determine, is this going to be a detrimental impact? Utah code requires it to be detrimental. And then the Planning Commission is able to impose reasonable conditions to mitigate those detrimental impacts. But it has to be based on something in the code that allows for that. It's been a little, my memory's a little bit fuzzy about that. Kara could probably speak a little bit better about whether or not there is a tie-in to the code that would allow you to impose that restriction on deliveries. But you do have to have that be part of your discussion here tonight.
Thank you. I was going to allude into some safety issues that I have as far as the fueling coming into and going out of your proposal. So first of all, we don't know exactly what's going to happen on Redwood Road there, but my question is, do you know, have we engaged with UDOT to say that we're going to have a slowdown lane in the southbound direction? You do know something about that?
Yeah, we've already reviewed the plans, and we will be constructing to meet UDOT standards. So we are coordinating with them as far as what we have to do to meet all the requirements for that access on Redwood Road. We understand that that portion of Redwood Road is going to be in phase 2, and so we're, like I said, coordinating with them. We are going to construct everything up to the right-of-way for Redwood Road, and then once they come in, they're just going to tie into it.
Okay, I'd just like, if you could, put a placeholder in there, someone to talk to UDOT to make sure that we have some kind of slowdown lane, because once this is built out, I mean, okay, here's the other problem, is if you're coming out onto Redwood Road from this cross-access easement, in similar properties, we've made it so you can't make a left-hand turn, which would be in the northbound. We've made it so that's had some kind of berm or median, so they can't make that left-hand turn. Very similar to what you're going to have over on Fairway after this is widened on Redwood Road. You're going to have to come across, one, the slowdown lane, two, the 2 lanes of traffic, and then a turn lane in the center. So you're going to have to cut across 4 lanes of traffic to get across. And right now, if you haven't looked at any of the statistics, on Ring Road, there's all kinds of accidents that are happening there when people are turning left. I know that they're going to cut down the roads, so there's going to be more visibility, but for safety, I think that's something that we need to consider. Yeah.
Are you referring to the proposed access on Redwood Road,
Right.
that access will remain closed until UDOT fully improves Redwood Road.
Okay, and I do see that there is a left-hand turn out of there.
No, that access will be fully closed.
I mean, once they're done.
Well, until, yeah,
once you're done.
once,
I'm looking at the arrow going to the left right there.
Yeah, so after Redwood Road is improved,
Right.
then that access can be opened and UDOT's design accommodates.
Okay.
We actually, as staff, came out very strongly on this particular issue.
What was
And
your
spent quite a
position?
bit. It was no. You're not going to conflict with any traffic on there. And so they understand that they have only the access off of Ring Road until that road is widened. And so they're going to build everything and then have it blocked off so that when the road is widened next summer, it will then just seamlessly be connected. And it's only at that point that they will have access from that south exit point.
Yeah, so just my concern is still a left-hand turn out of that parking lot onto Redwood Road is a dangerous one, so.
It is, however, it is permitted by UDOT, and at that point, you'll have the full road width, the full four lane with the center turn lane road width. So it is tricky, but ultimately, we can push so hard, and then it becomes a UDOT decision on their right-of-way.
Won't there be
That will comply with their access management standards.
won't there be a traffic light at Ring Road?
Yeah, there will be.
That will help.
So Mr. Skis, show me how the flow of the fuel truck is going to go through your property. Because I'm kind of, I'm looking at this and I see the future islands canopy. I'm just wondering how you're going to maneuver this truck through your property.
it's working. Oh, will it work on my screen too? Okay. There we go. Ultimately, when Redwood is open, in this access point, when this access point is open, our trucks will come in off of Redwood Road here, and then we have over to the side here is where our fueling tanks, they will come in, they will fuel, they will come back out this way, go around Ring, come back out.
And until it is widened?
And
'Cause
until
I
that
anticipate
time-
you're going to be here before the Ring Road is done. I'm sorry, before Redwood Road is done.
Yes.
Right? So how are you going to do it then?
Then we would come in off of 2015 here onto Ring Road and through the site, and we've been able to, typically we do a turning template, and that's something that not asked to provide, but we can certainly provide the turning template that would show you how our truck's moving. We certainly don't want to get a truck in there and can't get it off our site.
Right.
So.
You thought this through?
Yeah, and for fire truck, yeah.
Is there going to be anything that blocks light from vehicles, so it's not spraying against the neighborhood over there? Do you have some kind of opaque, I mean, I believe we have something in the code that says that you have to have some kind of opaque blockage so that the lighting doesn't spill onto the residential areas.
Well, it's a little bit different than that. It's that no light can spill onto a public road. So they do have hedges on 2015 and on Redwood to keep the light from shining onto public roads.
How about those residences, though? How are we going to stop from having lights all over their backyard? I'd be
In facing which way?
to the
Across
south.
Redwood Road?
To the south.
To the south. The south, that will eventually be blocked by additional commercial.
Right. But until then, it's just
Well,
going to
we
be
do have
open.
landscaping over there, but as you can see, we don't have any parking that's that way. The majority of our traffic flow is flowing from east to west.
See a bunch of trees and bushes. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just looking to see that we had something similar to the other Maverick that you're going to have over by the high school. You are going to have some kind of opaque blockage from the residents that are over there, so I just wanted to make sure we're consistent. Let's see. All right, those are the questions that I have. Any other comments or questions on this?
Actually, to get back to what Kevin had said, so I think in the past we had imposed those conditions based on safety. There was that one in the school. And then we also did it based on traffic. And then we also did it based on, no, that was it, I think. But since traffic doesn't seem to be an issue at this point, or no, safety doesn't,
Traffic is an issue.
sorry, safety doesn't seem to be an issue at this point. Traffic is the only thing I could think of, because lighting, it would actually make lighting worse if we required them to go at night.
Traffic through this area right now is probably the worst in the city.
Right, so I just wonder, though, I don't think the conditions imposed would help with the traffic necessarily. If we
Right.
did it at night, I don't think necessarily would, because that is when the, I mean, unless it's just in the middle of the night or something, when
You know, and that's
nobody's-
something that we may be able to, because I know in talking with, Mark about our access there, we're going to be submitting a new traffic, an updated traffic study once things start to move forward. And maybe at that time, we can take a look at how that's going to function. Like I said, we're fine with limiting our hours, but I think the possibility of maybe where you've limited them in the past, maybe they're commercial corridors, whereas this is more of a residential area, and so maybe the hours may not be as critical
Right,
as it would be.
That's what I'm trying to say, is in the past, there were specific reasons tied to the code, but this time, I'm not sure if limiting it to the same hours would actually make any sense, especially since the concern, I mean, traffic is always a concern, but especially if the concern is going to be lighting. You know, then to have all that coming through the night is actually going to make things worse. So I don't know if we need such a condition in this case.
If I could, just a philosophical conversation. I know with Murphy, it was specific to how tight it would be to get access into and out of that.
Right.
I hate to make a capitalistic argument, but this is their business. They clearly don't want to restrict access. They clearly don't want to impose hardships on their customers. And so they're going to find the times that work best for them from a market standpoint. It'll be a market-driven decision in many respects. And so it's not the same as Murphy's. I kind of see where you're making that argument. The traffic, as was pointed out, is really the primary major issue right now. We've very clearly explained that to Maverick, that they're going to have to live in a very restricted location until Redwood Road is widened, at which point they then would entertain the full access off of that. We did invite them to make the improvements on their own and not wait for UDOT, and they respectfully declined. So, I think as you're looking at these types of restrictions, I would consider that they do know their business very well, and for us to put too narrow of time limits and restrictions on it might be overreaching from a purely market-driven conversation as to what's best for their business.
If I might chime in on the other side of that, because I tend to be a very market-driven type guy, but in this...
I'm making that argument for you.
I know, and I appreciate that, Mark, thank you. I'm contrarian sometimes. My one concern with traffic would be, with that location, as you're coming up on Ring Road from the north, you're kind of up over a little hill, and so you can't always see that intersection well in advance. And so if we've got a big truck trying to pull out across that, I think there could be some issues there, especially now. Now, once we get a light at Ring Road, I think this all goes away, because now that intersection is controlled by light, and it becomes a non-issue.
And the grading will be changed then, but that's not till 2018.
But is restricting the traffic to a late hour in the middle of the night or something going to solve the problem that you just mentioned?
Just only because there's so much fewer traffic that's going to be going by there.
But in the middle of the day, wouldn't it be better, because then it's more visible?
If I could, we have so much construction traffic in the south end of the city. There's big trucks going up in and out of that neighborhood and up and down Redwood Road 24/7. So it really isn't, I mean, they're going to wait. That's just what's happening. I mean, with the condition of Redwood Road this week, with them, putting all of the barriers on it, took me 45 minutes to get home Monday night or Tuesday night. So, I mean, in the south, we're just used to kind of these impositions, and certainly it will cause a hiccup, but no more than we've already got in our current condition in the south end of the city.
I would suspect that if a driver figures out that if he's going to deliver early in the morning or about 5 o'clock, he'll only do it once.
Yep.
And then he'll figure out a different time.
7 and 8 in the morning. Us driving to work, we make that mistake all the time. But it's bad condition. Obviously, it's being addressed, and hopefully, and with the improvements that are phase from grant, those should have huge. Those will be done long in their doors, so those should hugely. Not going to be perfect, but I think won't exist.
And do keep in mind, I mean, so when you're talking about land use ordinances, that's kind of contrary to this whole argument that Mark's making about market-driven conditions. We have the authority under the zoning power to impose, restrictions on the use of land. And that's oftentimes contrary to market-driven principles. It can be consistent, but the market-driven principles is you can do whatever you want, if the market is going to bear it. So all land use law is in really contravention of property owners' unrestricted right to use their property as they see fit. And it's been sustained by the Utah Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court. The issue here isn't necessarily, are you allowed to, can we do that? Can we impose restrictions on delivery, times of delivery? It's where in the code does it allow you to do that as a planning commission? And is that a detrimental impact? I'm not sure that it is. I mean, that's up for the planning commission to decide and to look at the code and find where that fit is. Where does the code address that? There is the condition, and the law also says conditions have to be in accordance with established standards. And if you look at our conditional use section, I don't know, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. It's been a while since I've looked at it. It's probably 10 pages long. So we could certainly look at that. Murphy's Oil was a little bit different. Like Mark mentioned, we had actually made an exception to our standards to allow that to happen. That's why we were able to place that restriction on when those deliveries occurred. It wasn't necessarily because of the conditional use process.
May I just say to you that even though next summer we're going to have a lot of construction right there, you probably are coming in at a very good time, because those of us that live around there will think twice before we want to get out in our cars and go all the way in. It will be much easier to just go around the block and go to Maverick.
We know Stan's doing the Slurpee run for you.
Yeah. So I think
We've had this conversation.
I think you are picking a very good time to come in.
All right. I think we've discussed this fully. I'll entertain a motion.
I move, based upon the discussion today, I move forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the Maverick at Ring Road site plan and conditional use permit located on parcel 59:002:0144 as shown in the exhibits, with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated July 20th, 2017.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Commissioner Kilgore. Is there a question on the motion?
Yes. I question on item 10, what we've decided to do there.
I decided to leave that out.
Okay.
Is that seconded?
Sure, yes.
I have a question. I mentioned some extra architectural detail. Does anybody else agree with that? Should we put it in as a part of their motion or not?
I was not the only person that had the authority to do that other than make a request. Is there do we have the authority to require additional architectural features?
They meet all the architectural requirements.
I guess we can request.
We can request. Duly noted, you've been requested.
So although requested, is it part of the motion?
No.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Okay. Let's move on to item number 5. This is a public hearing It's an administrative recommendation for a plat amendment for Sergeant Court Phase 1 PUD, Peak Square Retail, located approximately 19 through 21 West Sergeant Court. Nathan Smith is the applicant. Nathan, if you're here, we invite you to come and join us. And we'll turn the time over to Kara Knighton.
All right, thank you. The applicant has applied for a plat amendment to combine, skip forward, lots 103 and 104 of the Sergeant Court Phase 1 plat in preparation for the Peak Square Retail Site Plan. This is located northern part of the, there's a hole, in the northern part of the city. Here's the proposed plat amendment. So one of the reason it's before you tonight is along Redwood Road, there is a 30-foot right-of-way buffer area, and that currently is owned by the city. The applicant is requesting that that be returned to them. In exchange, the applicant will maintain that piece. One of the conditions is that the current Redwood Road trail have a public access easement placed on it, so the public can access that. This is sometimes where the mouse is nice.
So another thing, and it's in the staff report, but it's more expansive than that. It also allows the city to run utilities through there. That's because I believe that there are current utilities there. And then on top of it, the council has to approve that, basically deeding that through the plat amendment process, deeding that to the property owner or the adjacent property owner, and make findings about why that's basically of equal value. So what we're getting in return is not maintaining that parcel in perpetuity. That's going to be equal to the fair market value of the property. That makes sense. So it's not just the public access easement, it's the utility easement as well.
Correct. Staff recommends the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, take public input, discuss the application, and vote to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council. This is a public hearing. No public comment has been received up to this point, and the applicant is here if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. We did have our applicant come forward. Would you state your name and address for the record?
Nathan Smith, 6542 Deer Hollow Way in Highland, Utah.
Welcome. Did you want to add anything to the presentation? No? Okay. This is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and open up public comment on item number 5. It's a plat amendment for Sergeant Court Phase 1. Given no comments, we'll close public comment at this time, and we will open up to the Planning Commission for comment.
Not really comment, but why are we doing this? Like, what's the grand scheme? How does this all fit in?
Are you asking why the plat amendment has come to you, or why?
Why is the applicant wanting to take on this additional property and merge these things together? And is this all part of a grand scheme for world domination? I need to know these things.
So the Peak Square Retail building is actually about like this, so it encompasses both pieces. So that's why they're asking for those to be combined. And then the right-of-way request is to help them with, well, not only their landscaping requirements, but also just continuity.
So the existing building to the north, I believe Kara explained that in the staff report, the physical therapy building, medical office, they're right up against the same boundary line, and that code requirement for that setback didn't exist at the time. So this really is to help this property owner have the benefit of the same that the building to the north had. It isn't going to negatively impact us because both buildings are going to be on the same property line, in line with each other. And it actually is a benefit for us because we don't have to maintain that property.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's true. It's going to be taxable property for the property owner, so.
There are just a couple of things in the conditions. We already talked about an easement, but I don't recall that there was a conclusion on that. Is the applicant going to provide those easements for public utilities, et cetera? And then there was a condition about securing water rights. So where are we at in that process?
That question, that's a boilerplate comment. That comes at the time of building permit.
Okay, thank you.
There are other conditions. The plat has to follow the city's standard layout, plat note stipulating original plat note applies, all that stuff. Is the applicant okay with doing all that, meeting those conditions?
Yes, I believe we're pretty close to meeting them all.
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to address the city rather than you, so you don't have to worry about this first comment. I just wanted on the record that I have a problem with having a maximum on the amount of parking. Part of the reason of that is that the usage of the buildings can change. He could change some of that to medical, some more of that to medical, and then that would require more parking. I don't think we've had a problem in the past with any builders coming in here and demanding too much parking. That just doesn't seem to be a problem in our city, and I just have a big concern with that. If anything, in our city, we have a problem with the other direction. Builders don't make money off of parking spots at this point. At some point in time, the city may make money off of parking spots, but I just think that a maximum on the parking is too restrictive and not necessary, and it just doesn't seem to comply with what the city wants to do. My only other concern, and this one I will address, and maybe the city will be the one answering, I don't know, and that is that we're giving up part of this right away, and you then will take responsibility for it. At some point in time, the state may widen that road, which may take back some of that land. From what I'm looking at on the diagrams, it looks like that will take away some of the sidewalk. Will this sidewalk then for sure continue and actually end up taking some more of his property, his landscape property anyway? Is that what's considered will happen if the city does, or the state does widen the road there?
So that 30-foot right-of-way area is in anticipation of possible future widening down the road. As far as how much would be taken up by that? No.
I guess my question still is, will the sidewalk continue on through there if they do take that?
Yeah, if the state comes through and widens Redwood Road, they will replace the sidewalk. They'll just have to move it further out, and they've got that 30 feet in which to work.
Okay, so, I mean, just by looking at this, it could cut into some of that sidewalk, and I just want to make sure that will be continued on at some point, if that is taken. And I realize we don't know when or if that will occur, but I just want to make sure that, and I would think as an owner, you would want to make sure that there's a sidewalk there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the Planning Commission? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the Sergeant Court PUD Phase 1 plat amendment located on parcel 66:185:0104 and 0115 of the same and as shown in the exhibits with the findings and conditions and the staff report dated July 20th, 2017.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
We have a second. Commissioner Funk. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Nathan Smith.
Thank you.
All right, should we keep going along, or do we need to take a little break? Good, let's do one more. Item number 6, this is a public hearing, administrative recommendation for a site plan and conditional use permit for Peak Square Retail located approximately this is when we already did this one, did we not? Sorry.
Site plan.
That's what I'm reading, but I guess we've done it. We're done.
Just did the plot amendment. This is the site plan that goes.
Okay, good. This is a public hearing, administrative recommendation for a site plan and conditional use permit for Peak Square Retail located approximately 19 through 21 West Sargent Court. Kara.
Thank you. Before we get started, there is a colors and materials board for this project next to Sandra Steele. The applicant is requesting approval of a site plan and conditional use permit for a 11,000 square foot building located at approximately 21 West Sargent Court, located in the northern part of the city along Redwood Road and Sargent Court. The Development Review Committee reviewed the site plan and elevations on May 15th, 2017. Their comments are summarized in your staff report. Here you can see the proposed site plan. So north is up with Redwood Road and Sargent Court here. You can see the main building and the parking lot to the back. Here are the proposed landscaping plans. Again, the orientation is the same. Proposed elevations. So this is the side that would face onto Redwood Road. The sides. And similar to Maverick, the elevations were not updated for the specific sign package, so the elevations that you're seeing here are not the proposed elevations. This is just the signage for Peak Orthodontics. Staff recommends the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, take public input, discuss the application, and choose from the following options, which include a positive recommendation, continuance, or a negative recommendation. This is a public hearing, and as such was noticed in the Daily Herald, and mailed notices sent to all property owners within 300 feet. No public input up to this point has been received, and the applicant is here if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Kara. Would the applicant like to join us again for this? We won't have you tell us who you are again. Did you want to add anything to this presentation?
I don't think so. No, I think she presented it well. We were here for a conditional use one not too long ago and changed some colors of bricks and other things, so hopefully you're happy.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so we will open up public comment on item number 6 at this time. Okay, we don't have any public comment, so we will close public comment and we'll open it up to the Planning Commission for comments.
How consistent is the architecture with the other buildings in that area?
It is consistent in colors and materials, and something that was changed following concept review by the Planning Commission and City Council as required by the PUD code section. The applicant did come back with some pitched roofs to better match the current architecture of the surrounding buildings.
Great. That. Also, is there a sign out in front of this facility or any monument sign or anything?
No.
Okay.
Commissioner Steele.
Yes, I have a question. When you were here before, your accessible spaces on the north, were further down. Where is your main door for that tenant space?
It is the north door.
Okay, but which one? There's two.
The one closer to the handicap spot.
Okay, if you can point out that.
There's a door here?
No, on the north side,
North
sorry.
side? Oh, so there's a
Right there.
door here and one here. There's a couple of doors.
Okay, but the north.
For the orthodontic space, it's that north door right there, yes.
Oh, okay. Then those that disabled space needs to be moved so that the access aisle is as close to the front door as possible. And it looks like it needs to be moved up 2 or 3 spaces. That's in the building code and it's in the accessibility code.
No, that's great by me.
And your lighting plan still shows the disabled spaces further to the east, so.
So it hasn't been updated with the site plan?
So it hadn't.
Sorry, we've had 3 different architects from the beginning to end. It's been a little frustrating to make sure it all follows through.
Very good. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Steele. Other comments? Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes, oh, yeah. Right angles. It says weed fabric. I just wanted the applicant to know that I think our code no longer requires weed fabric, right? Yeah, so just so you know that there's flexibility there.
Do you have preference?
I think our preference nowadays is that that there isn't weed fabric.
No weed fabric? I'm a big fan of no weed fabric, so I would love to pass that on.
It's windy, it gets messy.
Yeah, it's in the notes up there, so just so you know that we don't, if you put it in there because the code has been changed just recently. And then on all the light fixtures, the picture with all the light fixtures. So in one of the pictures, I don't know if you just took it from the light base has the word Saratoga on it. And I thought on our recent code changes that we discourage that on private property because people think that it's a city light, and therefore if there's a problem with it, they end up calling the city. And so I thought that in the code we decided to change that. And I don't know if that's just a picture that they just took or.
Yeah, the code says.
What's that?
The code says lights on private property shall not have Saratoga.
So on this picture, it has Saratoga on it, on the light post. So I just wanted you to know that we don't want Saratoga on there.
Okay. We had a different light there, and we had to change it to this light, so we'll change it to the one that you tell us to.
Well, so I'm just referring to the logo. It's not supposed to have the Saratoga logo on it.
The light itself is the same standard look and feel. It's just a logo that we're.
Yeah, it has Saratoga on there, and the discussion when we made the change to the code was when it's on private property and light goes out, residents think that they call Saratoga the city.
To come fix it.
So that's why.
I think probably what they did was just took the standards out of the book, took the picture out of the book, which has that on the development engineering standards, and just
right. I figured that, but I just wanted to make sure you understood that too. Okay. And then the Urban Design Committee. Oh, I think this is just for the staff. On the Urban Design Committee comments, it says that talking about sidewalk. It says that 19.14.04, talking about sidewalks, special provisions applying to sidewalks. I don't think that's the right, or was it title number? I think it's 19.16.03.
Yeah, so there is no UDC anymore. It's now DRC comments.
Okay, then that's the.
Yeah, so.
Urban design. Whatever that is. 19.14. But when you look that up, it's actually 19.16. 03.
Yeah, that was just changed in the last
Okay.
round of amendments.
And then, so there is some issue with the pedestrian connection on the south side of the building. So what is being proposed at this point? I guess we recommend that there be one, or at least the design review committee recommended it, but you're saying that there's a slope, I guess. And it makes
Yes.
sense. So what should we do about that?
So just talked again with the engineer on the project, and he really doesn't want to put one there. It's where the gas meter comes in, where the electrical comes in. You have your utility box there on the south side of the property, and with enough slope that by the time you put a 4-foot sidewalk, it's going to be a very steep one. They said, well, we're not required to put stairs, but he's having a tough time with the flow of everything, as well as to make a fast skateboard ramp for the kids to play with that would end up close to Redwood Road. He thinks there's a big safety concern there too. We are providing 2 connections on the north side of the property, which I think anybody that's going to be walking from the road coming from the subdivision behind us, by the time they come onto the property, it's another 30 feet to go on the north side of the property versus the south side. And I think for safety, slope, other issues, we would really prefer not to put a sidewalk there.
Okay, so again, with the code requires access on from every side to the adjacent street. So can we put in a condition in this case, or I don't know if it's called a condition, but an exception because of safety?
So what the code says, I can read it directly to you. And safe pedestrian connections shall be made between buildings within a development, to any streets adjacent to the property, to any pedestrian facilities that connect with the property, when feasible between developments, and from buildings to the public sidewalk to minimize the need to walk within the parking lots.
Right.
So I think we've met the code already. They recommended another sidewalk there, but I think we've met the code as is.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the city's okay that they're not going to go ahead with the recommendation.
Yeah, we discussed this as staff. Obviously, a connection to the south of the building would be ideal, obviously, but I think in this case, due to the topography, the nature of what's there, in this case, it's probably just not feasible, so they'd add a second one there on the north side.
Okay. So we don't have to make any exceptions in this case to the code, or exceptions because the code does say about every side. Right, so, yeah, safe access. So we're okay. We're okay with that. Right, we don't have to make any kind of a condition or anything like that. So we all agree it's not safe to put one in there. Is that right?
I'm not sure I agree with that, because I looked at that property, and to me, that was a flat piece of property.
I was surprised.
Do we have a grading plan that shows what the difference in grades are? Okay, I see a nod from our engineer. Is there that much difference in grade?
Grading plan shows about 3 feet difference in elevation. All sidewalk, you'd probably walk type.
Yeah, I don't think we for that.
I agree.
Okay.
After I get that answer.
Okay. So we don't have to put a condition in because we all agree that it's not safe to do so. I'm sorry. It's not right. So we've resolved that then. There's another. .06 landscape and fencing. Third bullet point that says required. Again, it's not required, so just so you know. And then screening and fencing fencing doesn't go all the way to property line, and that was a concern that the city had. So what are your plans about fencing?
Talked with the engineer on that too. So there's the storm drain right there that kind of juts onto the corner of the property. So we can put a fence around that, or we can into the storm drain. We can't go over it because they need to have access to be able to clean it in. I personally think I would rather have it added just because it protects anybody coming from the parking lot, falling into a storm drain, or that's a pretty steep retention pond. What are you, I'm okay with whatever you guys want me to do there.
What do we need to do so we could just approve this?
Staff would like that extended to the property line for code compliance purposes.
Okay, so we'll extend it to the property line.
Terrific. Is that something we have to mention when we make a motion? Pedestrian connectivity. How will the south connection look or go through? Oh, did we already discuss it? I guess. Oh, and then on page. Required question mark? No. What was that? And the big presentation is 5, but smaller one. Section 19.2. For that section, required question mark and then no. Page 37. Page 37, that's right. It's covering it up. Is this just a stray sentence?
No, that is specific. Well, it's, so what's that about the code? Because it's asking about signage has to be like, let me pull it up really quick and then I can tell you.
Okay. My last comment too.
This room has been.
So it's asking if the drainage packet has to be approved. Planning Commission. You just review it. Well, later on, an actual permanent sign packet approved by staff.
Okay, staff. Okay. There's a requirement for Planning Commission to.
I'll look into it, but I think it's an old thing that kind of got slipped during the last code.
Okay, all right. Oh, we could disregard that.
It used to be that, and I thought it still was, that when there's new construction, that it had to come to the Planning Commission. And then
Signage?
For signage.
Okay.
And then if it was something that was changing, like a tenant sign that is after the fact, then the staff could approve it. And I don't know how that got melded into the new sign ordinance.
Yeah, because I've never seen that. I've never seen that question there before in the application review. So, okay, but it looks like it's we don't have to worry about it because that's it for me.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Based upon the discussion, Based upon the discussion today, I move that we forward a positive recommendation to City Council for the Peak Square retail site plan and conditional use permit located on parcels 66:185:0104 and 66:185:0115, as shown in the exhibits with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated July 20th, 2017, with the addition that the fence go to the property line. Is that all we need?
There was one other, moving the disabled spaces closer to.
Oh, that's right. And that the applicant move the disabled space on the north end close to this, be closest to the door.
Close, yeah, closest.
Is that what I said, closest?
I think you said close, has to be closest.
Done. I agree, closest.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any question on the motion?
Yes. Did you want to strike condition number 7 with the southern, like,
Oh, yeah. And that we strike condition 7 regarding the southern access.
and then
Kilgore, do you second that?
Second that.
did you want to add a condition to remove the Saratoga logo from the
Oh,
logo?
that's a good point. And that the lighting be compliant with city code and thus remove the Saratoga logo from the street lamps.
We have that on the motion. Do we have a second? Agree?
Yes, second.
Any other questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your time. Okay, let's take a 5-minute recess. Do you want to turn that off?